Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I stopped in the month of June 2022, and I just want to wrap it up and then talk about the month of July. So the month of June, I basically finished talking about the stuff I went through, but I do want to rectify something. So I mentioned about the rental assistance, how I got $16,000. Well, that wasn't correct. My past due balance was $16,000 and some change. My rental assistance was almost $23,000. So when my rent was paid in the month of June, I had a $6,000 and some change credit in my account. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. And also, what else again? I was still working, with the internship. At this time, I wasn't really doing anything. I was basically reading a bunch of articles and attending meetings, and that was it. Also, too, I do like to mention at the end of June, I was bombarded with so many dreams, so many dream interpretations. I was interpreting dreams from previous years. I remember saying to myself, if I was able to get so much information in the month of June about Brandon and Caitlin, I wonder what type of information I'm going to get in the month of July. And let me tell you, in the month of July, I got so much information, y'all. So I am going to talk about it in this episode and the next episode as well. So here it goes. It's July 2022. I get a visit from my mom. She comes in for like a couple of days. And then also in the month of July, I was given an email by my leasing office about renewing my lease. So I plan to renew my lease. Now, I will say this. There was something that was off with my security deposit, so I had to clarify with them. But needless to say, that wasn't clarified. And I thought about it too. I was like, Adriel, you got your first rent in this apartment for free, and you got your second month's rent for another discounted price. So you can't win them all. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna just renew my lease. So I renewed my lease, and the end of my lease was going to be September 2023. So enough about me in the first part of July. I'm gonna get into Brandon. Okay. So when it comes to Brandon, I thought about him a lot. I was scared for him. I just felt like, man, the decision for him to get back with Caitlin was the worst decision he ever made. I just was just hoping that there was some type of way of him getting out of Oklahoma before the judgment was going to happen. If, he would just wake up one day and realize that I'm not supposed to be here, let me go back to Atlanta, that type of thing. So I just, was worried about him and stuff like that. So July 13th, y'all, I'm having devotion I'm reading the book of Matthew. I want to start from Matthew 19, verse 3, but what really got my attention was verse 9. So Matthew 19, verse 3 says, some Pharisees came and tried to trap him with this question, meaning Jesus. Should a man be allowed to divorce his wife for just any reason? And Jesus responded, haven't you read the scriptures? Jesus replied, they record that from the beginning, God made them male and female. And he said, this explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. Since they are no longer two, but one, let no one split apart what God has joined together. Then why did Moses say in the law that a man could give his wife a written notice of divorce and send her away, they asked. Jesus replied, Moses permitted divorce only as a concession to your hard hearts, but it was not what God had originally intended. And I tell you this, whoever divorces his wife and marries someone else's commits adultery, unless his wife has been unfaithful. Immediately after I read verse 9, I thought about Caitlin's ex-husband, y'all. And I'm like, man, why do I feel like this entire time that Caitlin's ex-husband was the one who filed for divorce? Like, he divorced her because she cheated on him. Now, mind you, I didn't have any proof, any evidence that ex-husband divorced Caitlin and Caitlin cheated on her ex-husband. But I just knew it in my spirit that that's what happened. So I was like, you know what? Let me go on Twitter and do some type of research with Caitlin's ex-husband. So I go on Twitter and I'm going through his old tweets. I don't really see anything telling. The only thing I saw was that he would like basically tweet about her, about how much he loves her. She's just an amazing woman. That was in 2019. I want to say March or so. But there was nothing about I'm getting a divorce. There was nothing about throwing shade or being subliminal. None of that. It's as if he left her and he wanted nothing to do with her afterwards. So I was like, okay, I didn't get anything. But from reading, Matthew 19, verse 9, I honestly believe that Caitlin cheated on her ex-husband and he filed for divorce. So, y'all, tell me why. Minutes later, I'm like, oh, Brandon is broke. I'm like, either Brandon is broke or I knew he wasn't unemployed because I was like, no, Brandon is productive. He's not a lazy person. But y'all, everything just started coming to my mind. The fitness videos wasn't there. He didn't have sponsorships anymore. What else again? I was just like, everything has just been on the decline for him. I'm like, I don't think Brandon has money like he did once before. Well, no, let me make this clear. I didn't know how much money Brandon was making in Atlanta. I'm going to be clear with that. I don't know how much money he was making. But it was evident that he was progressing when it came to fitness, having clients. So I'm very sure that translated into dollars, right? So I don't know how much he was making in Atlanta, but I know for a fact in Oklahoma, whatever he was making was way less than what he was making in Atlanta. And something too, I also forgot to mention, y'all, back in April, when I was thinking about all the stuff I saw in March 2022, I remember saying to myself, how is Brandon able to afford to take care of 4 people? Like, the thought came into my head because when Brandon was in Atlanta, he was taking care of himself, right? How can he afford to take care of 4 people? Does he have the money for it? Like, I really was thinking about that. So now fast forward to July, I'm like, yeah, I don't think he's doing good financially. I don't think he has money like that. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on? So that was when I remember the car dream. Y'all, I was able to interpret the car dream. So at this time, y'all, it's after midnight. So it's July 14. I remember going to the bathroom and just walking around, and I was interpreting the car dream, and I'm going to tell y'all what the interpretation was. So in the beginning of the dream, I had gotten my hair done. I got box braids, and I remember I was still in the building, but about to head out. I brushed shoulders with the man. We both say sorry to one another, and the man happened to be Brandon. And in my head, I'm like, oh my goodness, Brandon's in Atlanta. And then he steps outside, goes into a car, and I talked about how the car was a beat-up car, right? Car was a beat-up car. It looked like it was involved in a car accident. So here's interpretation of that part. The car that Brandon was driving in the dream was symbolic for his life, right? I said that the car was involved in a car accident. Brandon had gone through some traumatic stuff in his life. That was what I got from that. There were things that happened in Brandon's life that was traumatic, okay? So I'm looking at him in the dream like, why is he driving this beat up car, right? So fast forward, I go to a popular West African restaurant. I park my car, and right next to me is Brandon's car. I look inside, and I said that the car was dirty, right? I said the car was dirty, and I said that how there were cuts in the seat. Now, let me translate that part. The cuts in the seats were symbolic for Brandon having internal wounds. Okay? The car being dirty, that meant that Brandon's, like, what Brandon was dealing with internally, his life was a mess, basically. Like, internally, he had dirty stuff going on. Now, mind you, I knew he was battling with some spiritual stuff, like the spirit of lust and stuff like that. There was some other stuff he was dealing with, too, at the time. So, yeah, he had internal wounds. Internally, he was dirty. He had a lot of filth inside of him. I said that the cloth on top of the car, it had like cut off too. He had like cuts in his life. Like Brandon was bruised, okay? So I go into the restaurant. I had to wait for my food. I didn't want to wait anymore. I came back into my car. I see that Brandon is in his car with a bunch of girls. Now, those girls were symbolic for spirits, vices that Brandon had in his life. Okay? So that was basically the interpretation of the dream. So that was when I realized, oh, Brandon is depressed. Because if he has all that going on in his life, he is depressed. He is depressed. And all the stuff I saw on social media about, oh my goodness, I love my wife, I love my kids, that was all fake, y'all. That was a facade. That was a mask. I'm like, Brandon is not doing good. He's not. He's depressed. And I feel like, too, financially, things were rough for him. And this is what I do believe. I believe when a man's money is funny, that can take a toll on him. Okay? So I believe Brandon was depressed. I also believed he had nightmares when he went to sleep at night. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm dealing with. Because here's the thing, y'all. When I found out about Brandon in 2018, I never thought he was depressed. According to his social media, he seemed fine. Even though a lot of stuff he posted was fitness stuff, I thought he was okay. I never knew he was depressed. Now, I thought about it too, later on, that I understood why he went to the gym Christmas 2018. Because, y'all, when I saw that story of him working out Christmas 2018, I was like, this is off. Who goes to the gym on Christmas Day? Everybody's at home with their family. I was like, yo, something is off. You know, is he going through something? It made sense, y'all. He was depressed. And I realized he was dealing with high functioning depression. So internally, he was bad. But externally, you saw him productive. You saw him working. You saw him getting things together. And yeah, that was what was going on with Brandon. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel so sorry for him. Now, I won't even lie. This entire time, I thought his troubles were from Caitlyn. No, y'all, he had troubles before Caitlyn. And here's what was interesting too, y'all. Throughout that time that I was doing my research and, you know, trying to be Inspector Gadget and stuff, I never understood why him and Stephanie broke up. Now, I believe he cheated on her, right? Which could have caused a breakup. But what led to him cheating? Because another thing, too, y'all, when it came to the Stephanie and Brandon relationship, from what I saw on social media, they seemed like they were friends. Like they were good. So I didn't even know what happened with that relationship, too. So yeah, y'all, Brandon was going through a lot and he was suppressing everything. He was suppressing his emotions, suppressing his trauma, suppressing his wounds. He was suppressing everything. Yeah, so no one really knew what he was going through. I don't think no one really knew him per se. So yeah, that was what happened on the 14th, y'all. Now, July 15th, I was in my bed, laying down. I was taking a nap, and my laptop was on my bed. I remember I wanted to close my laptop just to lay down. And there was this woman at the time who I would watch her videos. She would make videos about like kingdom spouses and like counterfeits and stuff like that. She put out a video. I did not watch the video. I just looked at the title. And the title of the video was, "Your ex will come back at an opportune time for them, but an inconvenient time for you. Once I saw that title, I was like, that is so Caitlin. That is so Caitlin. So I closed my laptop and I just laid in bed. So as I'm laying in bed, y'all, I started thinking about that title of that woman's video. And I said, wait, new boyfriend. What happened to new boyfriend and Caitlin? Because I don't know if I mentioned this, y'all, but as of April 2020, new boyfriend and Caitlin were together. In Caitlin's reconnection post, she said that June 10, her and Brandon had the most unplanned phone call. Okay. 2 months after. So I'm like, what happened to new boyfriend? And I'm like, wait, I think he broke up with her. Then I started thinking about her best friend. Now, mind you, Caitlin and her best friend were living together with Lily too as well in the townhouse. I started thinking about her best friend. I know her best friend moved out between August to December 2020, one of those months, right? So I said, if new boyfriend broke up with Caitlin and best friend moved out between August and 2020, now at this time I believed it was August, right? So let me just say August because that was what I believed at that time. So if best friend left in August and new boyfriend left Caitlin is by herself with Lily. Now, what I know from Caitlin, y'all, Caitlin could not be by herself. She would have a breakdown. That girl cannot be by herself. And I knew she couldn't raise Lily by herself. So I started thinking to myself, wait, in the reconnection post, she said that the most unplanned phone call happened June 10, 2020. What if best friend had already planned to move out of the townhouse? Y'all, that was what I was thinking in my head. I said, I think what happened was by the end of April or by beginning of May or so, new boyfriend broke up with Caitlin and best friend had already planned to move out of the townhouse. So it was only going to be Lily and Caitlin, right? Like I said, Caitlin couldn't be by herself. I think Caitlin panicked. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be by myself. I have no boyfriend. My best friend's about to leave me. Y'all, this was quarantine. She couldn't just go out and get a new guy to date her. I believe she panicked and she reached out to Brandon, y'all. That unplanned phone call, June 10, 2020, y'all, that wasn't unplanned. She planned it because she already knew that best friend was moving out. That phone call was strategic. Let me secure Brandon coming back into my life. So by the time best friend leaves, I can already have Brandon in my life. I'll have him move and me and him will be together. That was what was going through my mind, y'all. So I'm like, Because, y'all, that reconnection post that Caitlin posted, y'all, I knew there was deception written all over it. That phone call was planned, y'all. It was planned. She couldn't be by herself, y'all. New boyfriend left her. Best friend was about to move out of the townhouse. She couldn't be by herself, y'all. The thought of her being by herself, even with the child, she couldn't do it. She couldn't. So she's like, let me get Brandon back. Let me try to get him back. And I honestly do believe when Brandon reconnected with Caitlin that summer, I believe she was on her best behavior. I believe she was super nice to him, you know, very overly sweet, probably love bombing him like she did the first time back in 2016, you know, just to make it look like she changed and like, you know, just to win him over, right? I believe she did that because, y'all, she was scared to be by herself. That was what I discerned July 15. Now, later on, I heard from the horse's mouth herself insinuating, I won't say she insinuated, but she basically confirmed what I was discerning. July 16, I have a dream. And I'm going to talk about the dream, y'all. So this is a dream. In the dream, I was outside walking with a man. Now, here's the thing about this man. This man is a retired NBA player. handsome, older. This man is like in his 50s, right? In the dream, I was with him, like relationship-wise. I was with him. I remember walking with him on outside. We're walking, and I remember just looking at him, being mesmerized, just, staring at him talk, just looking at him, being so enamored by him. Now, here's the thing about Adriel, okay? In real life, Adriel will never date an older man. I will not date a man who's old enough to be my father. I will not date a man who's old enough to be my uncle, okay? So that's where I stand in real life. Also in the dream, that was also my stance. But there was something about this man that made me, forget about my preference. I was just so enamored by him. And to be honest, I don't even know why. I didn't know why I was so enamored by him. But I was willing to forfeit my preferences and date this man. So we're walking and we're holding hands. He's talking to me. He's just talking, and I'm looking at him, being so enamored by him. There are people passing me by, y'all. People are passing me by, and they're giving me this mean look. And in the dream, I knew they were looking at me sideways because they were wondering why I was with this man. Like, girl, can't you see that this man is old enough to be your dad? Why are you with him? You're not supposed to be with this man. He's not the one for you. Basically, that was how they were looking at me in the dream. And I knew they were looking at me like that, like, oh, you're not supposed to be with this man. But I didn't care, y'all. I did not care whatsoever. For some reason, y'all, I was enamored by him. So we're walking, and he stops, and he says to me, I have to get on the train so I can get to my next destination. So I'm looking at him like, oh, this man is leaving me. So the next thing you know, y'all, I look across the street. There's a train station. So I was like, oh, okay. So he says, okay, bye. So y'all, he leaves me and goes across the street to the train station. So now I'm the only one on this road. Everybody who was looking at me crazy, they left. The man I was so enamored by, he left. I'm standing by the sidewalk, actually. I'm standing by the sidewalk, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't know where to go. I didn't expect this man to leave me. So I'm just looking around. The next thing you know, y'all, I look up and I see a Chick-fil-A. I said, you know what? I'm going to go into that Chick-fil-A. Go into the Chick-fil-A. There are people standing in line for their order, and they were just like, Chick-fil-A was kind of like moving, I won't say slow, but yeah, kind of slow, because everybody was waiting for their order and there was a lot of people in line. So I remember just sitting down, and I saw someone from my past, and I said hello to him, right? Then the next thing you know, I see someone who, at the time I had just started watching his YouTube videos. He would put out Christian content. So I remember just telling him like, oh my goodness, I watch your videos all the time. It's inspirational, yada, yada, yada. So I remember just sitting there, and then the next thing you know, I said, you know what, if I'm going to be in Chick-fil-A, let me order something. So I get to the line, and I make an order. Now, mind you, everybody's still waiting for their order. I make an order, and they say, oh, it's going to be X amount of minutes, whatever. And I remember just waiting. I'm like, you know what, forget about it. I don't even want it anymore. So I remember just feeling like, man, I'm stuck in this Chick-fil-A, and I have nothing to do. And I don't even know where I'm going to go. That was the end of the dream, y'all. So I wake up, and I'm like, why am I having a dream that I'm dating this retired NBA player that's old enough to be my dad, knowing very well I will never date an older man? People are looking at me sideways, and I understood why, but I was ignoring them. And this man left me, and I went to Chick-fil-A. Like, what? So I'm like, okay, God, what kind of dream is this? I didn't get it. July 17, I have another dream. In this dream, I'm in my apartment. And in the dream, I'm in a relationship with a current NBA player. And this current NBA player is an all-star player. And he plays for my favorite team. So in the dream, me and him were in a relationship. But basically, the premise of the dream was that we were hosting a gathering. So in the dream, we were making sure the food was together. We were making sure everything was organized. The games were organized. There were people who were in the apartment as well. Our guests were making sure they're good. So even though we're in a relationship, y'all, we were working. We were making sure this party, this gathering was top notch, right? So we're just busy getting this gathering together. So it got to a point where we were playing Twister. So we were all playing Twister together. And at the end of the game, I remember the guest saying to me and this current NBA player that, oh my goodness, thank you guys so much for hosting this gathering, that I'm so happy that you guys invited us. They were just basically praising us, saying that, just thanking us and that how they love being around us and just everything like that. And I remember just looking at this NBA player and just being so happy that we were able to pull this together. And that was the end of the dream. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm having back-to-back dreams that I'm dating NBA players. One is a retired NBA player. The other one's a current NBA player. What is the meaning of all these dreams? And y'all, in the next episode, I will tell you the meaning of these dreams. So y'all, if you are liking an unlikely story, please like, comment, subscribe. Please also share my videos as well too. And until next time, bye.